pueden, porfa. Gracias.
Gente, estamos ouvindo um retorno.
Todo esto es bioeconomía
Bioeconomy.
en la Amazonía. Y promoverla nos lleva a un futuro con más qualidade de vida,
Well-being.
calidad de vida, oportunidades económicas
Economic opportunities.
y protección de la biodiversidad.
Biodiversity.
Conexión,
Innovation.
convergencia para la bioeconomía en la Pan-Amazonía. Pan-Amazonía en red. Foro de innovación e inversiones en la bioeconomía. Sean bienvenidos.
Welcome everyone.
Sejam bem-vindos.
Hola, bienvenidos a todos y todos al Pan-Amazonía en Red.
Hello, welcome everyone.
Innovación en la bioeconomía.
So we are in the
Estaremos promoviendo
Forum,
15 paneles con una mirada regional sobre la
the
sociobioeconomía.
Pan-Amazonian
Yo soy Joana Oliveira,
Forum, and
soy
we're going to
secretaria
have
de
regional
Pan-Amazónica
panels
de
about
Bioeconomía,
socioeconomy,
por la
and I am responsible for this.
Estamos muy agradecidos por el apoyo del PIT
And we're
para la
going to
realización
have
de este evento.
the support of the
Aquí
event.
buscamos conectar los distintos actores, iniciativas
We're going
y
to
proyectos, también buscando
connect
una
to the
convergencia en una mirada
supporters,
amplia
the
para promover la
projects,
bioeconomía
and we're going to
y, por
find a
supuesto,
way to
comunicar y visibilizar
have a path for
esta área que es tan
bioeconomy
importante en la
and to
región.
civilize this that is so important to
Directamente
the
me gustaría
region.
invitar
And
a
then
los
I would
panelistas
like
de
to
hoy,
invite the
y
panelists
presentar
directly.
entonces
So I'm going
a
to introduce Raquel
desde
Biderman,
Conservación
who is
Internacional,
from
y también,
Conservación
hace parte del
Internacional
secretariado de la
and
Red
also
Pan-Amazónica
part
por la
of
Bioeconomía,
the
a
Secretariat
Martin
of
von Hildebrand
the
de la Organización
Pan-Economy,
del Tratado de
Martin
Cooperación de la
von
Amazonía,
Hildebrand,
secretario
and
ejecutivo
he is the
de
Executive
la OTCA,
Secretary of the
a
OTCA,
Nugkuag
Eduardo
de la Asociación
Nugkuag
Interétnica para
from
el
the
Desarrollo de la
Association
Selva
for the
Peruana,
Development
IDESEP,
of the Peruvian
Tatiana Shore
Forests,
de la
Tatiana
Coordinación
Shore
de
from the
Amazonía,
Coordination
liderada
of
amazónica
the
del
PIT
PIT,
in the
y también mi querido
Amazon,
compañero
and
Ricardo
also my
Calderón de
companion
Alianza
Ricardo
Florencia
Calderon
en
from
Colombia.
Florencia
Sean
in
bienvenidos
Colombia.
y gracias
Welcome,
por la
everyone, and
participación en
thank you
este
for your
panel.
participation in this panel.
Antes de empezar, la
So
conversación
before
entre
we
los
start
importantes
this
panelistas,
conversation
también
between
les
the
invito
important
a
panel
escuchar
members, I would
de
like to
Irene
invite you
Hofman del
to
PID,
hear
que
Irene
desafortunadamente
Hofman
no ha podido
from
juntarse en
BID.
directo hoy,
Unfortunately, she
pero
was
nos
not
envió
able
un
to be
vídeo
with us
corto
today, but
para
she
que tengamos
sent us
también
a short
su
video
presencia
so
institucional
that she can
aquí.
also
A
participate with
ver,
us here.
5
So
minutitos de Irene.
we're going to have 5 minutes with her.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you for the opening of the Pan-Amazónica en Red Bioeconomy, Innovation and Investment Forum. I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Inter-American Development Bank. And while I regret not to be able to be there live, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in this important space. IDB is a member of the Pan-Amazon Network for Bioeconomy, who are organizing this and helping lead a cross-regional collaboration on this topic across the region. This forum comes at a crucial moment for the Amazon. It brings together leaders, practitioners from across the region, and it's helping build a different vision for development of the Amazonia, one that puts people and nature at the center. We know that conserving the Amazonia and advancing bioeconomy go hand in hand. They're not separate objectives. They are completely interdependent. And that is why these conversations matter so much. Amazonia has the right conditions for a thriving bioeconomy. It's rich biodiversity, traditional knowledge, a strong community leadership. It can create the foundation for innovative products and services, and all of that can generate lasting value while keeping forests standing. However, this potential remains largely untapped. A lot of the investments are still very nascent. In Brazil, for example, bioeconomy receives less than 0.3% of agricultural credit. And yet research shows that scaling this model while conserving our forest could create more than 800,000 jobs and add $8 billion in GDP by 2050. So this is why this forum is so timely. It connects people, ideas, and capital. It creates the collaborations that we need so that we can unlock these opportunities. And IDP's broader efforts to promote sustainable development in the Amazonia region are all under the umbrella of what we call Amazonia Forever program. So our strategy to work in Amazonia is guided by this program, Amazonia Forever, and it aims to protect biodiversity, accelerate sustainable development. It does that through three types of actions. One, expanding funding, access to capital. Second, building knowledge exchange. And third, facilitating these kind of regional coordination among the 8 Amazonian countries. So the program for bioeconomy and creative economy is one of the pillars. It's dedicated to work alongside each of the countries in the Amazonia and to adapt to each of the local conditions. And within that program, the role of IDB Lab is to be the innovation and venture capital arm of the group, to take more risk, to go for those ideas that is still very early stage, but that can really work to support very innovative models that can help, for example, with new types of development of the Amazonia bioeconomy, like Amazon Bioeco, which is a regional project that supports 8,000 families and promotes sustainable management of more than 400,000 hectares in Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Guyana, and Suriname. This program provides training, provides technical assistance, and of course also access to funding. I'll give some more examples. In Colombia, we are backing Pantera Makers. This is the first private accelerator in the Amazonia for bio entrepreneurs, and it connects them with knowledge, but also with investment opportunities. A third example, Natura Tech, it's creating digital and financial tools with indigenous and local leaders to enhance conservation rooted in ancestral knowledge and generative justice. And the last example is the whole range of innovative financial instruments that we're working on. One of them is the Jaguar Impact Initiative. It's applying results-based approaches, which have been very successful in other sectors, but it's applying them to strengthen biodiversity conservation, in this case in Colombia, Costa Rica, and Paraguay. So in closing, we believe that Amazonia and the Amazonian bioeconomy is not just a regional opportunity, it's a global one. And the inclusive development of this bioeconomy is essential. We need to bring together all these actors. And this is why we're here. It will only succeed if we put the right amount of capital, but we also bring the right partnerships and together with the leadership of the people who live and work in the Amazonia. So together, I think we will achieve more. So we're looking forward to the results of this important forum. And I hope and I wish you all a powerful and inspiring discussion ahead. Thank you very much.
Feito. Depois desse vídeo da Irene,
Great.
obrigada.
After this video, thank you very much, Irene and all of her team, even if they were not here with us. So I'm going to use another 3 minutes of your attention before we start the debate to introduce the Pan-Amazonic Network. This is an initiative that started in June of 2023, 2 years now. It was organized in Belém, and it brought together more than 300 representatives from the Pan-Amazonic region. And from that conference on, there was a new elaboration, 31 recommendations about how to promote bioeconomy in the Pan-Amazonic region. And one of the recommendations was to only have this moment of the conference as a meeting between many actors and players. And that's why we formed this network in the Pan-Amazonia, and this includes financial organizations as well as the World Bank, the BID, and institutes that work with research, the academic world, producers, and local communities. So, as Irene has already said in her presentation, we are very careful about the voices of the producers and the associations, and they are really promoting the economy in the territory. The network is organized in 5 pillars, and we're talking about task forces now. They are led by 2 member organizations each, and they advance collectively, and we have the priorities for the bioeconomy. It is important to say that the bioeconomy that we promote on behalf of the Pan-Amazonic network for bioeconomy, we don't want to go into the debate of the concept and what we understand in terms of the principles that make up the G20 declaration, but many of the national policies and the specificities of all these national policies. So basically, bioeconomy that is promoted is the one of products and services that are compatible with the ecological integrity of the Amazon, and also the cultural inspirations like socioeconomic development that is inclusive of the local populations. So it's a bioeconomy that has a positive impact for people and for the climate. So we are organizing an area of access and promotion of the funding. This is also the theme for tomorrow's panels, access to markets, usually talking about the selling of the bioeconomy products, looking at the demand and offer and demand and supply and demand. And there are many initiatives in the territory mapped in the Pan-Amazonic region and bioeconomy initiatives. And we also know that there are bottlenecks and information gaps. So we try to articulate all of these members to be able to the points of visibility, invisibility, and to promote the area better. The 4th pillar is the one of promotion of public policies and enabling conditions. So there's the mapping and analysis of all the policies in the region, national and subnational, and thinking about how we can harmonize and generate coordination and integration in the region. And then, of course, re-guiding or redirecting subsidies and incentives. And finally, the 5th area of the Pan-Amazonic network is the strengthening of local capacity, if we're talking about business or also the institutional capacities. So with these 5 pillars, we expect to defend and promote a bioeconomy that is going to be recognized as an economic sector, to be able to be measured, viewed, to increase the potential and inclusion in the public policies or the planning of investment and financial investment, generating from bioeconomy socioeconomic path for the region. Therefore, after this brief introduction, I invite you all to know about our work in the site, and I'm going to start the debate without further ado. So I'm going to give the floor to Raquel Biderman. So Raquel, can you please talk to us about, I very briefly talked about the history of the network, but we know that bioeconomy is highlighted in many national and international agendas. And next month, it's 2 years, so we complete 2 years, but we have the challenge of planning ahead. And this has been happening this year already. So you were in the process from the beginning. So tell us a little bit about why a Pan-Amazonic network and why is bioeconomy the most important thing. Thank you, Joana. It's an honor to be here with you today. This is a dream that has come true, having this online meeting to share what we learned until now and moving forward as a network, and to be able to share our plans for the future. So we understand that bioeconomy of the Amazon is the main thing for the populations that live in the forest, for them to be able to live well and to have their own healthy lives. And many of these bioeconomies are hidden in little activities that don't receive investment and are not considered able to receive investment because of the scale or the distance, or because of the lack of professionalism and volume and several other factors. So basically, it takes a few years, and especially in the Pan-Amazon region, there's the need for a lot of effort. And we understand that the populations, they are considered to be small. They are the real economies that maintain the Amazon population in the forest in a sustainable manner. So we separated the economy that happens in the Amazon, large commodities, or if we're talking about something legal or not. This is not our focus in the Pan-Amazonic network. We are working with the economy that benefits the communities. And we understand that many of these small activities, they can already be integrated in a chain. There is the identification of where they are, and to make it easier for them to get to the market, for them to get to a large-scale economy, we are also in this network to be able to compose in each region a solution. We understand that for the different areas of the Amazon, we'll have different solutions. We are not pioneers in bioeconomy. We know that there are others who have come before us trying to do this. I think the novelty now is that we have actors from different sectors all over the Pan-Amazonic region. So we have the indigenous associations, the local populations, the small producers, the impact investors, the large investors, the multilateral banks, the different initiatives, incubating and accelerating, but non-governmental organizations that work with conservation and protection. So today we have a significant network of the actors that are there for a long time, trying to show that these small economies, because they bring solutions for the dignity of the families that live in the forest, they are important economies that deserve investment. And that's because of the great economy, and they need to receive not only resources, philanthropic resources, but we also need to transform this into something more professional, allowing them to reach a great economy. So some are going to serve a great economy, others are not. Some will address only local markets, but these small producers will be able to get to the larger markets, and that's what we're trying to encourage through this debate. And I'm very happy to be with you here this week and the next. We're going to have very interesting sessions that are going to bring incredible details about what is happening there on a day-to-day basis in the Amazon. So I recommend that you watch and participate. And at the end, the biggest objective is to share the challenges and the solutions for us to be able to work together for the economy in the Amazon and also for the conservation of the forests, and to avoid the tipping point of the Amazon, allowing the Amazon to continue being one of the global economic balance, climate balance issues in the world. Thank you, Raquel. So shall I speak Spanish or a mixture of Portuguese and Spanish? But I'd like to invite Martin to the conversation. Raquel also talked about the challenge of working together. So I believe that the cooperation in the Amazon definitely have the role of leading this process. And OTCA has a long history of dealing with this and with an expanded mandate since the declaration in Belém. There's a lot of work being done, and we've been working on this as well. And it's great to look at Resolution 23. So now we're going to bring Martin over here. Thank you once again, Martin, for participating. And my question is, how can OTCA lead this in terms of regional coordination in this bioeconomy agenda? And how can the Pan-American network help?
Creo que estás en mudo. A ver si logramos.
Your microphone is off, Martin.
Ahí está. Ahí está.
Okay. Sorry, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone who is here. And as you already know, in Belém do Pará, there were changes with regard to the Amazon. And there are three basic points. There are many challenges that are brought to us, and especially the sustainable development is to tell us exclusively for people to get an answer. And the third point is about the participation of civil society, which is extremely important because it is very clear that the governments cannot do this by themselves. They should continue the civil society. It's important to participate in the local communities, in the organizations, in the NGOs, and also in the primary sector. If we want to save the Amazon, we should know that there is 17% of the forests that are having problems, and this is a very important problem. We have to find an economy, as you know. That's why we are doing this, a bioeconomy, because we have to find a solution for everyone to regenerate the forest as well. So as Raquel has already said, it is important. I'm sorry, the sound isn't very good, but it was very important. It's an economy that could be marked. And when I say this, what do I mean by it? We're talking about an economy we're talking about competing in an adequate manner and without generating social problems. Also, in this type of economy, many times we end up not only using up the natural resources, and it's important to say that we have to deal with working the bioeconomy. I believe that, well, I wanted to concentrate more on this area. Definitely, we have a lot of knowledge. We have some fundamental references to begin with. We already saw traditionally a collection of several objects. And we see this whole sustainable area, and we're finding new solutions for it. And more than a community, it's a communion. So we were part of the forest, and I think these are the fundamental problems of this whole discussion. I think the discussion about bioeconomy has to do with co-production and technology. But the most important thing is a solution about ethics. So how we relate and where we're going with all of this. I think the indigenous populations are ahead of us when we talk about this. When we value this, we pay attention to technology, but it's not only knowledge. There is deep knowledge from the indigenous communities, and this is based on measuring, not calculating. It is an intimate relationship that they have with nature. So you can observe a tree until you connect with the energy. And I dare say that it's like going into a collective subconscious, not only a social one, but a natural one too. So dealing with energies and connecting with them and making an exchange with this. So I definitely need to keep the balance of the synergies, but more than half of my life I spent with the indigenous populations, and I have deep knowledge of the forest. We can learn a lot with this, and I think that the bioeconomy is the opportunity of making a bridge between knowledge, the knowledge that we have and the knowledge from the Eastern world, and making it all homogeneous. It's part of our system, and we will not have any more poverty. That would be ideal. And I'm thinking about where we're going. And we're going to go into a society of consumption. Are we going to do that? Are we going to explore nature more? Or are we going to move to the social aspect? Or are we going to use a different view or a different way of understanding human beings and nature? I believe that this is really fundamental for us. Now, of course, in this process of avoiding this kind of situation, this is very important, and we have to be conscious of the Amazon. And I would even say that it is very important to keep all of this working. The environmental services, the systems, everything is integrated. And I believe this is very important for us to be in the center of attention, because we already have this bridge. So we had good protection, and then we collapsed, continued to collapse. We had a situation of biodiversity, and we continue collapsing because we're not looking at how it works. And that's why, so that's why I believe it is very important to check the economy, and in this way we are advancing so much. We are listening to the indigenous populations, we're listening to how they work, and it's an economy that is born in the region, that is born in the people in the region, and it's different from the market economy, but we have the privilege of have knowledge about this, the privilege that is extraordinary, and we're not going to lose this. And then the market economy will go up, for example, using cheap labor, and we have to really listen to them and see how they understand the Amazon, how they understand nature. We have a lot to learn with them. And that's why the lesson about the Amazon is extremely important when we think about how we're connecting to this. So economy is extremely important for the people who live in the area, as also for the forest. And it's important to look at this with another perspective, not only looking at the small management project. It's much more than that. And I think it is a fabulous challenge that you are accepting, and it's a huge opportunity for TCA to be working with you and creating an exchange between countries, a space for dialogue, and trying to get an agreement between countries. That's very important. And this is what we're starting here. It's also very important to have the economy as well as health and the whole population and the nature. There are models, there are answers, and let's listen to these answers and let's see how the local population relates to the environment and the economy, the spiritual component that is also important for them, and deep respect for nature. Nature is sacred, and this is something that we have as well, and we cannot lose this personality. So this is the opportunity of supporting the forest, the agreements that are going to appear between the populations, and for us to participate as well. Thank you for the possibility to participate. Thank you, Martin. I think you have talked about different points. You brought different points and connecting with other people. And this is according to the discussions in our network. And the bioeconomy cannot become a commodity, right? If you allow me to use this euphemism. So, and that's how the economy is going to use the knowledge. I'm also very happy to be here with Eduardo, that represents the indigenous people of the Peruvian Amazon, and he's also part of the Amazon basin. And bringing together the organization of all the countries here in the Amazon and making, just as Martin said, how we have looked at our economy, and we look at the indigenous economy as well. And it is an economy. We're talking about practices. We're talking about the local people who have done these things for many years. So it's how the indigenous economy can also be part of what you're doing. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to participate. I'd like to send you all hugs, everybody who's connected. When the question is, so giving you the context of what we can do, and when we talk about Peruvian forest and the Amazon people who have been there for over 45 years protecting the indigenous populations of the Amazon. And the subsistence, also the defense of the culture and their own lives. And in these 45 years, we have protected the collective rights and also having development options with the indigenous population of the Amazon. We have worked nonstop with these policies when we talk about public health, intercultural health, education, cultural education, and something else that is important for us, the indigenous people, is the title of these communities, the entitlement they have, because the indigenous population can guarantee their territories, and because, we don't have a place to subsist. And this is really something that we have to consider. We have to consider the Amazon regions here in Peru. We have 9 different areas, 108 federations, and We have the protection of more than 18,000 hectares of the Amazon forest in the region, and it's more than 150,000 men and women with 19 different languages, and for us, this is a very important subject. Inside our line in the program, we have an indigenous line, and we look at the indigenous economy, and this has always been very important for us. The hunting, the fishing, the gathering, and this is something important so that all of this can be commercialized. And our important topics are education, family, health, and the problem of the indigenous economy becomes formal in 2015. It started with a congress bringing together different populations, and since then, we had the first program made for this work. It was a holistic view of the forests, where our culture is, the traditions, our form of life, the animals, etc. All of this was integrated. And of course, we do not live in a separated way. What we do is we're all integrated, and it's exactly this approach that we have. 3 different approaches. The first one is through the structure in a democratic manner. The second one is to guarantee the paradigm of living well as an instrument of development, with a holistic development of the indigenous people, an holistic view of the indigenous people, allowing reciprocity, and the view that we would like to have for the present and the future of the nations. And the third one, all of these initiatives have generated for the indigenous communities something so that they can work with capitalism and we can work in an equitable manner. We want to be seen as partners, and this is an important topic for us, this change in view, because through this kind of work, we don't want to eradicate injustice, the injustice that we've seen over the last few years. We don't want anything like that to happen again. And nowadays we have 200 enterprises in the territory, and it has been seen. We've done some work in this sense. And from the 200 enterprises that we have in the region, we believe there's an alternative proposal for us to be able to evaluate other aspects in our area. So mining and the narco traffic, and we have to generate an alternative proposal, because if this is not taken seriously, the Amazon that we all talk about, and we who live there, we're going to be in a very complicated situation, and it could disappear. So therefore, we have generated out of this work, and we did a first mapping of these 200 enterprises. We have different intervention scales as well. Some are primary, some are intermediate, and there are some enterprises that are more advanced in terms of their work. And they're already selling in a direct manner without any intermediates, and the production is for exporting as well. So these enterprises, we have worked with them. They have a formal structure, and we have generated these projects in the Amazon, and they all have a start, a middle, and an end. So when this works out very well, when we think about the project, and we therefore generate the first incubator, business incubator, and there's a component which is the indigenous technicians, and they have different professions, and they live in the territory. We have biologists, and we know this territory, and we would like to provide support for these initiatives so that these projects can actually work out and none of them are just so that they can be finished and not just hang there. So this is a very important topic, and we have done everything that is possible to be known, and this is a proposal from our organization for this culture that we have in the area. So we also make visits to the territories led by the indigenous leaders that have followed us during the processes to be able to strengthen the capacities. One of the things we do is we don't want things to be done by us. We also want to strengthen our capacities so that we will be able to generate sustainability in the territory itself. So it's very important to look at the way that they improve our distribution chains and their capacity, and this technical follow-up is very important for us so that we can find the gaps that still exist and we can improve our processes. Nowadays, we have several enterprises that have worked with nuts and wild berries, cocoa, coffee, also tourism services and presentation of artifacts and fishing, the general view that we have in terms of the bioeconomy. This is according to the hills. But when we talk about the Amazon, it's a different context. So we have wild animals. We have thought about this kind of thing, breeding them. And nowadays, there's the issue of the lack of consultation of the processes that we would like to carry out. Usually things are imposed, the development models are imposed, and there is a nice formula, but the public consultations are not done. Just like in our international agreements and in the UN, and even in the rules, the internal rules, there's in the bioeconomy, we have done this, and as one of our companions said, we want to participate, and the population wants to participate in this. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to be generating slavery of the same indigenous population that has been enslaved before. And this will definitely create results in the development, will create an impact in the development of the area. So we have to guarantee democratic work, and also we would like to conserve the forest for our generation and future generations as well. Nowadays, we are going through a process to develop an activity with the BID, and that's going to be discussed later. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eduardo. So you were perfect, and I would like to include Tatiana in this conversation. And she has all of the experience in all of these different initiatives and the need to listen and to have the participation, consultative participation. That's part of the objectives of the BID. So Tati, I would like to go back to the conversations. They connect themselves. And this is the great challenge to be able to create these bridges. But I'd like to know your perspective about the strategies and the networks when we talk about sustainable development in the Amazon, and what is the role of the other partners in this scenario. Good afternoon or good morning to everyone. It's interesting because I'm talking about the first international conference of bioeconomy. So it's a great question at this point. And it's also very interesting, Joana, because this forum, that comes up from a discussion of innovation and investment in bioeconomy of the Amazon. And it was coming from 4 years ago. And many of us here have been watching, and we're all involved in this discussion in the economy. And we've done this for a long time. And it's a huge opportunity. So look at this initial panel that we have, TCA, which is the OTCA, which is a very important organization. We have Conservación International. We have a representative of the International Bank, and all of us talking about the same topic, and that's a lot. I think that we have to take into account that this is a space that we need to occupy. So the formation of this Pan-Amazonic economy, bioeconomy network, I think this is an important message for everyone. So the purpose is to get together, to strengthen ourselves, and to position ourselves in a debate that is reaching a global scale increasingly. And last year in G20 in Brazil, and this year in South Africa, there is a specific area of bioeconomy. So we're able to understand the distinct proposal of each of these networks, that it's extremely strategic. So what does this network bring to the debate? And then we begin to see why this alignment is important, why this network brings a very important footprint. It's a way of thinking about alternative economies to protect people, to protect the fauna and the flora and the ecosystem. And as Martin said, to take into account this whole dynamics of the cosmo vision of the Amazon. And all of this is taken into a debate with several different voices. So it's a debate that bioeconomy will take on. So this network, thinking about the diversity of the Amazon, is extremely important to bring together with the other networks that are discussing bioeconomy beyond the Pan-Amazonian region. So we're talking about bioeconomy in Africa and Indonesia. So we bring a demand, and it's a specific sort of listening, and it's respect. And this demand is how to protect a local culture within the context of transition in terms of an economic alternative. And how can we do all of this thinking about innovation? If we're talking about ecological innovation, or if it's a different way of working, and then that's, how do we work with the indigenous populations, respecting their perspectives and respecting their culture as well? And how do we also bring all of this? So this whole discussion that becomes increasingly important, how are we going to work with financial innovation within this context? So I think it's all very strategic. The positioning of this network is strategic. And I think this forum is a very important, is coming at a very important moment. And it is interesting to note that this is going to be recorded, and we have very little didactic material, very little material about the Amazon that provides knowledge and language discussing the same topic. And I also see the positioning with regard to what is going to be discussed in the future of bioeconomy in the Amazon. And then we, from the BID, we have to think about the positive issues that bioeconomy will bring so that we can position ourselves differently from the other ways of doing agriculture, so like family agriculture. And we understand that there's positive issues about that too. And also with regard to nature, we have to understand that we need more biodiversity. We need to understand this better, and there is a gap in the knowledge about the nature of what we're talking about. It has to be positive with regard to the environment, and Raquel said this very well. So we don't understand the role that the climate and the climatic events have within the context of trying to find an economy that brings safety and stability to the region. So we're a little at a loss here. And it has to look at innovation. We have to innovate in everything. We have to innovate the way that we look at the Amazon, the work of Eduardo Neves in the archaeology of the region. The Amazon has a great landscape showing the population that works there. We need to look at all of this. And we have to innovate in the way that we think about the economies, and of course, innovate in the way that we fund them. And Eduardo said this very well. How can this resource get there in a correct manner to the territories and to the people who are there? And obviously, of course, nothing is done without the people. And then the Cosmo view of the Amazon is very important, and it's different Cosmo views. So I think Martin talked about this very well. The different ethnic groups, the indigenous groups and the non-indigenous groups that also have their way of learning about this. So I am very enthusiastic about the strengthening of this network. The BID supports this network from the beginning, and we see the role, the important role that this network has when it positions itself in the global debate about bioeconomy. So thank you very much, Joana and Carol. These are two people that are leading this forum, and I hope that many of us will meet in an in-person meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tati. So our meeting in July is going to be a new catalyst for these exchanges. There are so many alignments of organizations and spaces that are working in different ways, and understanding that our positioning and our looks are also converging, our views are also converging. That makes me very happy too. So I'm going to go back to Spanish, and I'm going to bring our final panelist from Colombia, Ricardo Calderon, and we've already said that these distinct perspectives of what the bioeconomy is and who we're cooperating with. But when we're in forums like this one, sometimes we hear from people who know a little bit more about this topic, and they say that the economy is not reality, it's just an idea. And Ricardo and, Eduardo as well, we all represent the reality, and Ricardo talks about the strength of the business. So this was made up of associations in the region, and it has the biggest processing plant in the region, right? So it's a good moment, right, Ricardo? And working with a great diversity of products. So, it hasn't always been like that. So, Ricardo, I would like you to tell us a little bit about the creation of this evolution and getting the value of the forest, and also the future of the business and how we can collaborate with the next steps. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you, my companions who are here, giving me this moment, these minutes. I feel very inspired listening to so many different views about our work and how our Pan-Amazonic network, and I'm very proud to be part of this network and to be learning with all of you. So we from AgroSolidaria, we are a second level organization, and we live in the north of the Colombian Amazon that was colonized by Colombians that in the 30s and 40s, in the bi-party conflict that existed in the country, and this came to the north of Colombia. These populations came in with their ideas and the use of the soil like we see today, and maybe they came in with different ideas and knowledge for agricultural development, and this is from Andean cultures. So this is not bad, but the development of the Colombian Amazon made us have a region that was not addressing the use of the soil, the correct use of the soil, or using the soil with these principles and these economic ideas that we have talked about here. So I'm sorry, I'm listening to an echo. If somebody could help us solve this problem. Is it my microphone or do we have a technical problem? But anyway, in more or less 2008, we began to see the effects of the different threats, the threats of all of these problems that started coming up. So, for example, extensive agriculture, and we started thinking about what we want and how we want to live and what we want to leave for our kids. And from then on, the bioeconomy was built, a local bioeconomy, so that people's voices, the people who live there, were heard. And that's very important so that we can align the expectations that the world has towards us and also align with our own expectations, because we're over there every day and we're there in the front line of this battle. For us who are getting up every day and taking care of the culture and the area, and we have our feet in the Amazon forest. So we understood that the bioeconomy products, they don't work, or we don't have a bioeconomy if we don't talk about sustainability. So we have to talk about the models that have revenue for these families so that they will be able to remain in these territories. And this is the role of our organization. And for us, it's very important to work on this social issue with these views and sharing with these families and what they think about this. And of course, it is a linear model, so it hasn't always been a positive exercise because we've had to approach these cultural challenges. We've had to change people's chips, right? The young people maybe don't know how the territories work, what they have in the territories and the programs that we already have there. And out of all the collective work that was done and the work that comes from the hands of these producers, and we have built things without any resources. So it's basically a task force of workers that worked on the processing plant called Cooperación, and it's a collective plant that belongs to 350 different families that use this plant, a plant that was built with dreams and hope. It was a task force and people who had to walk 3 or 4 hours to be able to help to assemble this plant. So always with the dream that we would be able to prosper economically speaking, and for us to be able to provide for our families. So we are a model of bioeconomy for our market, our Colombian market, and we have the first processing plant which has collective property in the Amazon region in Colombia. And this model, this associative model, is one where everybody gains, everybody participates, and everybody is part of the construction of the governance of the policies and the activities and the processes that were implemented. And this therefore allowed us to conserve more than 3,600 hectares because, I repeat, we are a region that has a high number of indicators of deforestation, and we would like to leave this inheritance for our families. My grandparents got to Taquintá, and he said that he wanted there and he wanted to open up space in the forest and open up the forest and open up the hills and all these hectares that they chopped down the trees. This is all being reversed, and it's part of my vocation. We're able to build the forest again, and we're able to recover and restore this forest that my grandfather had to bring down probably a lack of knowledge. And in our Solidarity Network, we are also aware of the knowledge that is born out of this network. We're part of the Pan-Amazonic network, and we were also part of the collective processes that we relate to, and all of this became an opportunity for growth of organizations. And from this perspective, that the building of bioeconomies are also done by us, is also done by us. And we also believe in the local talent. We believe in the inspiring talent that transits there. And this is all part of our solidarity. We work in this organization, the people who are hired, we are all people who are children of this territory, or we graduated here and sometimes study in another city, and then we come back to strengthen the work. And I think my time is coming to an end, but I would just like to say that we built reality as from different realities that we see in our territory. Thank you, Ricardo. It's very nice to hear you always, and hopefully we'll be able to support you in the next things that you do. So we talked a lot about the potential need to understand the local communities, the indigenous communities, and Martin was talking about how the bioeconomy has to be in the region and with people. But Martin, you have an experience before TCA that was connected to the territory, and now in the TCA and in the Secretariat. Could you actually talk a little bit more about how you see the role of the governments, and if there are specific next steps that we could connect to in this collective approach? So this collective effort, how could we work together, and what is the role of the governments? Do you hear me? Yes, very well. Okay, so actually, the role of the government is to start the TCA. We are a secretariat, and the role of the government is very important because the projects, they have to be supported, not necessarily with the government. These are regional projects, and if we talk about safety of health, so there are projects that can be developed, and as Eduardo was saying, in the different countries, there's the support, different kinds of support, and what we have to do is promote exchange of experience and knowledge, and our function is to promote this kind of activity. And the experience between the governments, the implementation, this is not what we do. And this is a reflection of the follow-up, or basically it's a follow-up for understanding and analysis. So I believe that in this movement, we're trying to, more than anything else, give attention to get to our meeting in August of the presidents that are going to make decisions for COP30. And after COP30, we also hope that we will have the participation and discussions with regard to bioeconomy, science, indigenous populations, and all these other things. At this point, we are using the participation of the indigenous people about health, which is extremely important because we have the problem of count. So, for example, health cannot be dealt with by the country. Everything is connected. There's safety, health, and this discussion is about the Amazon. And this takes time, but it takes time because We have to work with the government, and as you know, the government has the tendency to change. There are changes in the government, and we have to adapt. This takes time, and we don't really have a lot of time until COP30. So I believe that we should keep connected, and we're very interested in what you do. And we learned a lot with you. And these networks are extremely interesting, and it really works when we talk about the co-participation of civil society. It's extremely important, and we are committed to each other. And we have a few steps that we're going to follow. We're connected. We're going to exchange ideas. We're going to propose the production of this bioeconomy and how we can actually make a joint effort with COP30 and so on. So we're going to have a COP30 to be able to cement all of this and to keep going, because that's extremely important. The only thing is that this is not very concrete. We need to make sustainable development. We need an economy that loves nature and the environment. That is extremely important, and we need a new economy, and this is a priority for us. That's all I can say at this point. So let's keep connected and let's work together, but, doing specific activities. And we're going to try and contribute to all of these processes as well with this meeting. So first of all, with a series of online panels, we have 15 panels in 8 days, and there's going to be a great effort to systematize things. And we hope that with this network, we'll be able to have support for an international support as well for everyone. So my time is very short, and I'd like to ask Raquel a question and also Eduardo. And it's about, this panel is focusing on innovation as well. This event is focusing on innovation and investment as well, as Joana said. So what kind of investment, Raquel, do we need to be able to promote the economy that we want to have, as Martin was saying, in the Pan-Amazonian region? And Eduardo, if you could also comment on the leadership of the indigenous organizations and how this direct funding can also support the changes that we want to make. Raquel? I believe that we still need to have philanthropic investment. We don't have enough resources of this type to be able to leverage the activities that still need a push, that still need support and help. The capital investments in business, the loans, and all other kinds of loans, they're all very important as well. But I believe that we're still at a moment when these micro initiatives, they're not ready to receive capital yet. When we talk about loans, and this could take a while, and this definitely comes through donations, and we have multilateral organizations, international cooperation, bilateral cooperation, and companies that invest philanthropically. And this resource is still necessary. The structure needs to be created, and they are not able to advance without this capital. And for me, that's the great challenge that we have, to know that this is all very welcome, but it's not enough, because they're looking at things that are ready. And we know that there are still lots of opportunities that are hiding, and there are partnerships, there are things that can come out of this society. So philanthropy has to continue. We still need more time to create an impact, to be able to develop and attract a correct portfolio. Thank you. Thank you, Raquel. And I think over the next few months, with the articulation of many members of the network, we're going to have a few people are analyzing what's happening in the region, the innovations, and looking at the impact as well, looking at the visibility of the new investors beyond philanthropy. So, Eduardo, would you like to comment and compliment on what was said? Thank you. Well, considering the experience that we have in a few years, this topic of new decisions in bioeconomy, indigenous bioeconomy, and also looking at the indigenous communities, and also having funds, the indigenous population with the structures and the initiatives. And just to say that there was a lot of articulation, and it was also very successful. So, for example, the organization of the indigenous people, and this is not reimbursable. And when we're talking about the Inter-American Development Bank and the Amazon, and it's the whole political line. And this is an important topic to be able to deal with bioeconomy. And currently, as I said, we have 200 enterprises, and this is a project that is going to be channeled during 36 months through 25 events that are going to work together, and they're going to be partners in the conservation of the forests. And currently, we're talking about important topics, one that is going to have an economic line, a diagnosis, and looking at the reality. And on the other hand, this is also going to generate some projects. So some projects and some plans that are going to include these 25 enterprises, and according to the production that they have now. The democratic process through the structure in this process, and when we talk about the elections, that's important because it is not generated as from the intervention on top. It is basically from the bottom up. So it's the democracy. Internal democracy is very important, and we still have the leaders involved who are going to learn about all this process. They know about all this process, and this topic is very important. In this follow-up of the project that is going to be generated thanks to the BID funding through the multi-donation fund. And this is a response, considering what is happening currently, and it gives us an example so that several organizations that are non-governmental or multinational banks, for them to also concentrate on this kind of work. And this is going to generate good results, not only now, but also over the next few years. And I believe this is an experience that I can share with you because for us, it is a very important topic that highlights the work that we're going to do in the Amazon territory in Peru. Thank you. Okay, thank you for the information, and thank you to the people who are sending questions. We still have a few minutes, and I would like to bring back Tachi and Ricardo, but I'm going to take advantage of Marcelo Salazar's question, and please feel free to answer it, direct it to anyone in particular. So if the members of the panel see ways of associations and cooperatives bringing for-profit organizations, so they can have nonprofit resources and profit resources as well, just to add Juan Davi and Rodriguez, who also shared a question about the BID. Maybe Tachi, that's for you. If you have any strategy to strengthen the support to indigenous communities specifically, I think Eduardo brought some examples. And it's a more general view of this action. And the last point, he also asked about variables or factors to associate this level of development of the bioeconomy initiatives. And I would like to share inside the Pan-Amazonic network of bioeconomy, we have been having access of partners who are benchmarked, who analyze the business and trying to have a shared view as well. So there are many questions, but Tachi, maybe you can start, and then Ricardo can actually talk about the solidarity funding perspective. Thank you for the question. So the BID, the specific association, sorry, the sound is really bad. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think your audio is coming from the computer and not from the headset. Just a minute. Is it better now? No, not yet. How about now? Okay, now it's better. Thank you. Okay. So the BID now has this in the Amazon, and we realized that there's a specialized group there, specialized in working directly with the organizations, the indigenous organizations. So today, there's the potential of developing all of this. You can also have direct investment in the indigenous organizations, not all of them, but the ones that already have a history and they're more strengthened. And what Raquel said definitely fits. We still need a lot of investment. We can only get there when you have an organization in the basis, because today we have a specific program to look at the indigenous populations, and we start with national support. So we're going to have Senai, we're going to have, in Ecuador, we have resources, ongoing resources with CONAC, which is the Quilombola Association. We're working with OTCA and the university. So trying to see how we can support these organizations to be able to work with regional action and in a way to strengthen these organizations so that they can become strong enough to develop an indigenous economy in the Amazon according to the culture, according to the scale. And if we want to, it could become for profit. So that's how we have worked, and I think that we have quite a few panels during these 2 weeks, and we'll be going to be able to explore this a little further. Thank you. Thank you, Tachi. Ricardo, could you please comment on that, the perspective of funding? Well, definitely, My response comes from the perspective that we have in the local communities, the organizations of the people, the peasants there, and in Colombia, not only in the Amazon, in Colombia, there are many challenges for the funding, and let's start with that. So one of these challenges is to see how we can start using the resources that come through different organizations, and they come from other operators, and also the organizations at the base and the communities that live in the Amazon. So there's a very small percentage of the resources that get to them. And this funding, when it is well directed, it should also be aligned to the expectations of the local communities and what they consider to be actions that should be invested on for the next step. But it also has to be aligned to the investors of the organizations who can finance and how the world is being transformed and how the world is being seen and how the world sees the Amazon. So there should be a balance between these two. And in Colombia, we have several differences in the organization, and we have the developments in bioeconomy and biobusiness. What they usually do is limit access to the use of biodiversity a little. And this has become a funding challenge because the organizations, we live with rules that allow us to be able to access the markets and the business, and they're going to demand this sort of thing that is applied to the whole of the Amazon region in Colombia, for example. And we know Brazilian experiences where the rules try to favor things for communities so that they can have responsible use of biodiversity and access to it. Now, definitely for the Amazon, innovation right now, they're beginning to work on different accelerators, especially related to the BID. And in terms of business, this was a call that was being done a few years ago when we talked about innovation, because the services that we have in the Amazon, the type of help we have there, and trying to increase the structure of the business there and working on a marketing plan or the development of a brand and the funding. This is all very limited there. And usually we have to look at external services, people who are in other countries and cities, to be able to think about development online. And part of the co-responsibility of the investment that can get to the territory, we also have to think about the installed capacity in the organizations or allied to universities or a cluster that helps us in the building of the organizations, in these technical issues that are so necessary for the growth of local organizations, the peasants, the indigenous population, and several others who help us to develop the Amazon from production models and economic ones too. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Thank you very much, everyone. I think many of the topics that appear here, definitely we're going to be able to go deeper into them in the next panels. And the topic that Ricardo was talking about, the experience with the methodology and with business systems and other Brazilian partners, I invite you to check the agenda. We have maybe 5 more minutes. And if you want to make 30-second comments, it's a very short comment to everybody who presented. Thank you very much once again for your participation. So it's a pleasure to be with you. And it is a pleasure, Martin, to collaborate with your efforts in bioeconomy, and you can count on our help. And we're very happy to have a significant group of players that have been working for a long time to promote an economy in the most complex areas of the Amazon. They do not give up, they keep going, and it's very good to have persistent people here who are resilient, who believe in this economy, and it's going to be great to hear from the producers themselves and the players who are working. So please listen to this series of discussions that we are going to have over the next few days. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joana. Without her, it wouldn't have been possible. She worked a lot to make all this possible. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, and thank you to all of the members of the task forces and to Carol as well. Martin, please. Your microphone is off. Okay. The virtual world sometimes does this to us. Okay, I got it now. Sorry about that. Sometimes I get confused here. Anyway, so I just wanted to thank you. Thank you for the work that we have here with so many countries and people who have contributed, and organizations like yours that give us strength, and we feel supported, because this is what we should do. We should do it with you and everyone. And thank you for the contacts that we have. Thanks to you who are there, and we can call them, and we're going to build things together. That is extremely important. And we have a job, and we have to try and articulate with the government to be able to count on you. But in the future of the Amazon, this is going to be built by everyone, and we're definitely going to be involved with the communities, all the people who live in the Amazon. Thank you very much. And I'm coming out here with a lot more strength and well accompanied by all of you. Thank you. Eduardo, your final comments. First of all, I would like to thank everyone, the organization team, for the invitation. And above all, it is important to provide visibility for this process that is being developed and what we are building. So I invite everyone, if you want to learn a little bit about our area, if you want to come and visit us, please contact us, and we'll know a little bit more about the dynamics. So bioeconomy is a very complex term. There's still a lot of gaps to fill in, and it's important to have this sort of forum that allows us to see how we can do this. And the topics in the agenda are very important. And for example, intellectual property, the rights of the indigenous communities, and the topic of genetics as well, because in bioeconomics, this is something that is not being dealt with in a deep manner. And there are several topics. Hopefully, and talking about what is happening now, and that's very important. And that's very important for everyone. Thank you, Eduardo. And so Ricardo now, and then we close. Well, I was very inspired by everyone who participated in this opening panel in this forum. And I'm going to be connected in all the sessions, because this is going to allow us to know each other, know what is happening in all the Pan-Amazonic area, and all the knowledge that can be replicated according to this community work that we do, the peasants, the local communities. Thank you very much, everyone, for your words and for inspiring us. us and for building the Amazon that we want and where we want to live. Thank you, Ricardo. Can you hear me? So I'd like to close this panel. And it's 45 years, right, Eduardo? That's what you said, right? You're completing 45 years. So that is extremely important for us because you have knowledge, and we'll keep going. And, we're going to start these conversations and copy. That's what we do. And over here, we're going to have all of the different panels in the forum, and we're going to have an in-person meeting in July. Thank you. Thank you, Joana. Thank you. And reinforcing the invitation, we have 2 panels a day starting tomorrow. Tomorrow we have panels focused on access to funding in the morning and in the afternoon, different times. Everything is in our site, all the panelists, and we hope to meet you in these other meetings as well. And in this way, we will systematize the knowledge for our meeting in July and for the international events and COP as well. Thank you once again for the collaboration and for your participation, the questions, and we'll see you over the next few days. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you. See you soon. Bye. Bye. Thank you very much. Bye. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you very much.